A little while ago, I made a video about the Pride Silk outfit, a unique armor that's not really an armor type specifically that can add a bonus to your AC if you're not proficient in armor, found in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. I didn't realize it was there till an errant search by myself, but I have since been alerted to the fact that there are several other mundane, non-magical items that were introduced in the book, somewhere in the range of at least 10 to 15, and I'm going to go over them all in this video. If you want to see what those are, stay tuned. What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I wanted to give a big shout out to Drew over on Twitter, who linked me this article or this forum thread on D&D Beyond. Why don't I come ahead and show you this right here? So this is posted by one of the D&D Beyond admins, looks like Storm Knight, or D&D Beyond staff member. And from what I can gather, this was actually posted back in March, early March when it was released. But I guess this was sort of going over the release notes and what was happening in there. But right here is this mundane equipment section. So it has the Pride Silk outfit that if you mouse over, tells you what it does. But look at this. There's all these other items listed here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and we're going to open up each one and take a look. So first up is Black Sap. I don't think there's any spoilers, by the way, I'll say, but this was all stuff contained in the Wildemount Gazetteer section, so it wasn't, and this is, again, hang on, real talk for a second here. This is sort of a problem I have that Wizards has been doing, and it's because of the inconsistencies that I have the problem. These are technically new items. These are not new magical items, so they don't fall into the chapter covering new magical items. But I do think that if you're going to add a consistent amount of new equipment, things that people can theoretically add to their game or find by that errant D&D Beyond search, there should be a section in your appendices or something like that that says, like, equipment, and it lists it. This is something we'd seen for, in previous games or previous editions. We'd see if they were going to add new mundane equipment, they'd have an equipment section, and it would talk about what all the equipment is and all that kind of stuff. This is the same thing. We have a whole bunch of equipment, but it's peppered throughout the document, and if you don't go, or through the book, and if you don't go and find it, you never know about it, and it's not really compiled in one tight place. You can't search mundane equipment on D&D Beyond by source. You can only just search it, basically, and sort it. So that's kind of my little pet peeve with it, but thankfully, due to that post, we can sort it out and see. So Black Sap is a potion worth 300 gold pieces. This tarry substance harvested from the dark boughs of the Death's Heed Willow is a powerful intoxicant. It can be smoked as a concentrate or injected directly into the bloodstream. A creature subjected to a dose of Black Sap cannot be charmed or frightened for 1d6 hours. For each dose consumed, they must make a DC 15 con save or become poisoned for 2d4 hours, an effect that accumulates if multiple doses are taken. So I like this, right? This is a cool concept. We haven't seen something like this before. It is a potion that you can get with it has a hard price because it's a mundane item, so you can go out and you know how much it's going to cost to buy. But it gives you a significant benefit, immunity to charm and frightened for, minimum of 1 hour, maximum of 6, but it comes with a downside of potential poison. I thought that's pretty cool. Next up, we have Blasting Powder. So this volatile alchemical powder comes in a small pouch. When ignited by an open flame or fuse, the powder explodes. Each creature within 5 feet of the exploding powder must make a DC 13 Dex saving throw, taking 3d6 bludgeoning damage on a failed save or half as much on a success. The character can bind multiple pouches of blasting powder together so that they explode at the same time. Each additional pouch increases the damage by a d6 to a maximum of 10d6 and the blast radius by 5 feet to a maximum of 10 feet. So essentially, or to 20 feet rather. So you can sort of almost make this like a fireball, essentially. And I thought I remember seeing blasting powder in another book, but maybe it was just a reprint. I don't know. Let's see. Blight Ichor. 200 gold pieces, another potion. Sickly green liqueur harbors potent psychedelic properties. Provided it is neither construct nor undead, a creature subjected to a dose of Blight Ichor gains advantage on intelligence and wisdom checks, as well as vulnerability to psychic damage for 1 hour. Each dose of Blight Ichor consumed, the creature must succeed on a DC 15 con save or become poisoned for 1d6 hours and suffer the effects of the confusion spell for 1 minute. An undead creature subjected to a dose of Blight Ichor gains advantage on all dex checks and is immune to the frightened condition for 1 hour. So you're going to get advantage on intelligence and wisdom checks, vulnerability to psychic damage for an hour, and then you need to make that con save. So it's, again, this kind of idea of like a potion with a little bit of a drawback. Because the side effect's pretty bad. Poison for d6 hours and the effects of the confusion spell. But it's also interesting that if you give it to an undead, it gives them advantage on dex checks and immunity to frightened for 1 hour. So in theory, if you're a necromancer, you could make this and give it to your undead minions to boost them. Explosive Seed is the next one. This one, again, does not have a cost. Acorn-sized sphere of brass contains an amount of blasting powder and a clockwork trigger. An explosive seed can be thrown up to 30 feet as an action, detonating on impact. Each creature within 5 feet of the exploding seed must make a DC 10 dex saving throw or take a D8 bludgeoning damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful save. So that's interesting. It's blasting powder, but it's not doing fire damage. It's almost like a concussive kind of grenade. A little DC 10, only DC 10, it's a 5-foot radius, but it is mundane, and, you could probably make a lot of interesting uses for this, and I like that they're calling it an explosive seed, but it's essentially a grenade. So a Moorbounder, I don't think we need to go through that, because that's the creature, but, they do have a price, okay, as a mount, 400 gold pieces, beasts of burden or common through Jorhas, for example, those who require speed and a little more coin can buy a Moorbounder. They haven't undergone proper training or established bonds of trust with their master, tend to attack and even eat their riders. They can cost anywhere between 300 to 500 gold pieces. They're often cheaper and more abundant in towns on the wastes than in cities like Rosanna. Okay. Morosa Bomb, 100 gold pieces. This is another potion. Paste made from the Morosa bush is known to help prevent sunburn. It is also a fire retardant. After spending 1 minute applying a quarter pint of Morosa Bomb to your skin, you gain resistance to fire damage for 1 hour. Cost is 1 gold piece per dose for sunburn, 100 gold piece for full application against fire. So I like it's got like a little lore behind it with the sunburn, and it can also be used for fire resistance. Alasuba leaf, 500 or 50 gold pieces. These dried leaves of the Alasuba tree, when steeped to make tea, can help a body recover from strenuous activity. If you drink a dose of Alasuba tea during a long rest, your exhaustion level is reduced by 2 instead of by 1 at the end of a long rest. That's good. I always felt like we needed some sort of additional reduction of exhaustion in some form, whether it was through a spell or something else. Class feature. I like that. We have Pride Silk here, and then the Pride Silk outfit, so it just gives us Pride Silk and gives us some background on it, how much it costs. Then we've got a Skyship. So this is a new vehicle. I think that was that 100,000? Yep, 100,000. It says it's a vehicle land, which is interesting. 10 miles an hour, but it's a Skyship. 10-ton cargo, crew 6 to 10, maximum occupancy 30, 2 gold pieces per mile per passenger for travel. The shipping cost is 1 gold piece for 100 pounds per mile. Skyship is an equipment item in the same way that vehicles are. Okay. Soothe Salts, 150 gold piece potion derived from a naturally occurring crystalline substance discovered throughout the miles of the Miskath Strand. Crimson crystals have been mined from cavernous veins. Blah 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 blah. Soothe Salts are consumed orally in lozenge-sized doses, and frequent users can be identified by the telltale crimson stains around their mouths. A creature subjected to a dose of Soothe Salts gains advantage on all intelligence checks for 1d4 hours. For each dose of Soothe Salts consumed, they must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or gain a level of exhaustion, an effect that is cumulative with multiple doses. And then we've got the Theki root here, 3 gold piece potion. When you consume a dose, you gain advantage on saving throws against the effects of poisonous or toxic substance for 8 hours. That's a pretty cheap one, basically an antacid, it sounds like. And then Willow Shade Oil, 30 gold pieces. A creature can use its action to apply the oil to another creature that has been petrified for less than 1 minute, causing the petrified condition on that creature to end at the start of what would be the creature's next turn. I think we've actually seen that one in Campaign 2. And that is it. Yeah, so I really like this. This is something that I didn't really know that I wanted Or I guess I sort of did, but I was thinking in a different capacity. So I was thinking I wanted more item types, like more different kinds of armor, and we kind of have that in the Pride Silk outfit, and more new kinds of weapons, not like magic weapons, like a magic sword or a magic axe, like a new weapon type entirely, right? So like a 3-section staff or a 2-headed maul, or you know, a kusarigama. I don't know. It's something that is different and unique, but a cool weapon type that then all of these other kinds of like it could be a, you know, I don't know, a vicious 3-section staff. I don't know. You get my point though. But something unique and different, because I always felt like there was not enough weapon types. I thought, like, I get it. The concept of 5th edition is to make things more simplistic and reduce unneeded options where necessary, right? Like not making the katana its own weapon, or making a bastard sword its own weapon versus a long sword. They just have a long sword and you can wield it 2-handed, and it kind of functions similar to a bastard sword, right? You can just, I think it even says in the Dungeon Master's Guide that use a long sword for a katana. Don't make it a new weapon. So lots of things like that, but I still would like to see more options. And I think one of the things that I'm now realizing that I do want is more mundane items. So this is non-magical equipment, just expanding on that. It's interesting that a lot of the mundane equipment added in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, not all, but a lot of it has this concept of it gives you a benefit, but it also gives you a downside potentially if you fail the saving throw. And I'm actually pretty pumped about that. That's an interesting concept, right? To give. And maybe that's the way you offset the fact that it's non-magical, right? So, like, in theory, you could drink a potion, a magical potion that's significantly harder to get, costs more money, and it would give you nothing but a benefit with no downside. But these are giving you, hey, this is mundane. It has a price that you can spend 1 gold pieces to get access to it, and it gives you a thing, sure, but there's a potential downside to it. And that kind of reminds me of the concept of spice, the whole spice concept from Critical Role Campaign 1, like a cool, in that case, these are more potions and stuff, but in that case, it was like a drug that gave you a benefit, but also a downside. So, I don't know, I really like this concept. I'm curious what you all think. Were you even aware that these existed? As I've stated before, I focused heavily when I read through Explorer's Guide to Wildemount the first time on what was clearly defined as the new stuff, right? The races, the spells, the subclasses, the monsters, the magic items, but these aren't contained in any of those sections. These are sort of peppered throughout the Wildemount Gazetteer in the different sections of the world where you'd find things. They're sort of added in like the town or the location where you'd find it. So I missed out on a lot of these the first go around. Like I said, the Pride Silk outfit caught me by surprise, but now I know about these as well. So there'll be a link in the description to the thread where this is contained if you want to go find them for yourself. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys haven't taken a chance to subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. We are approaching 30,000 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. Also, if you manage to stay to the end of the video, I do appreciate it as well, as that does help the YouTuber out. Once again, a huge thank you to all of my patrons over on Patreon. You guys are great, and I appreciate all the support. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.